It's time to talk about one of the greatest storytelling masterpieces of our time. Of course, I'm referring to Muppet Treasure Island. Yes, this is a DVD. What are you gonna do about it? So today I want to talk about how Muppet Treasure Island, one of my all-time favorite movies, is a masterclass in theme. A theme, by the way, is just an idea that the writer plays with, looks at from a bunch of different angles, and eventually comes to a conclusion about, or at least hints at a conclusion. This video is going to be a little bit more of a video essay than some of my more teacherly videos, so hopefully you enjoy that. I know that Muppet Treasure Island has a ton to teach me as a storyteller, and so I'm going to just walk you through how that one element theme is handled in this movie. For any sad person out there who might not know what Muppet Treasure Island is, it is a 1996 masterpiece that takes the story of Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson and gives it a Muppet flair, but it is so much more than that, and we're going to get into exactly why today. So it starts off with the initial number. This first song sets the tone. It's intriguing, it's adventurous, it's funny, we can tell it's for kids.
Dark a tale as was ever told.
And it sets up the theme
Of the lust for treasure and the love of gold.
Sets up the theme right from the beginning. We see one extreme of a dichotomy that is established throughout the entire movie, and that is going to be friendship versus riches, which is a relatively simple theme. All books, all movies have themes, even if they're not meant to teach some moral, for example, but romance stories are almost always about how love conquers all. They're just these ideas that are prevalent throughout the piece. So in Muppet Treasure Island, it is friendship versus riches, and the story is going to explore that those ideas coming in conflict, and ultimately the characters are going to need to decide which should take the priority when those two come in conflict. So in this initial intro, we see the pirates hiding the treasure, those riches, right? And the captain shooting almost everybody who helped him hide that treasure, because dead men tell no tales. For him, the treasure is far more important than his shipmates. So we get a sense of not only the fun, adventurous tone of the story, but we're presented with one extreme. We'll find out the incorrect extreme of these two ideas brought side by side. After that, we're introduced to our main character, Jim Hawkins, who is just a 90s delight that I still love deep in my heart. And his friends Gonzo and Rizzo as they work in a sort of pirate inn. It's interesting that Jim has those two good friends because, of course, it's friendship versus treasure versus riches, and Jim has these two ride or dies in Gonzo and Rizzo. They even mention it in their initial song, where Jim is not content merely to stay in this dishwashing, cleaning, alcohol serving job. He's like 12, but instead, he wants to go on adventures. He wants to see the world.
I'll put my courage to the test,
and I'll be by your side.
He'll be by your side.
He wants to have some money. So for him, he wants both friendship and riches, and he has not yet come to a place where he needs to decide between the two. He thinks he can pretty much have it all. And then after a tremendous and exciting fight scene, he comes into possession of a treasure map. And all three of them, Jim, Gonzo, and Rizzo, are thrilled because they can go on an adventure, they can leave this dead-end job where they're living, and they can get rich. Again, we don't have the conflict between the friendship and riches quite yet. He thinks that both of them are kind of on par, and so he's going to go see the world just like his father did. His father, by the way, was a sailor, and the one thing that he left him is this compass, which is Jim's most prized possession, so hang on to that. This is a good time to say that there are spoilers in this video. If you have not seen Muppet Treasure Island, number one, what are you doing here? Number two, stop this video and watch Muppet Treasure Island. It is so good. I am not overstating the case. I loved it when it first came out, and I continue to love it now into my 30s. Then we get to the next part of the story where the characters all set sail. Now the cast expands. We have not only Jim, Gonzo, and Rizzo, but we have the people who are sailing on the ship, the Hispaniola, with Jim to find the treasure. So that includes Captain Abraham Smollett, that is Kermit the Frog, and more importantly, we have Long John Silver, played by Tim Curry. I just love his performance, and I'm going to get more into that later, but Long John Silver is going to end up being the most thematically important character in the entire story. At first, Jim is just making new friends, right? He's befriending the captain, he's befriending the half-witted son of this wealthy person who's financing the voyage. He befriends, everybody on the ship, including the cook, Long John Silver, who has one leg, and he's been warned against one-legged men.
Beware the one-legged man!
But Long John seems like a good guy, and so they befriend one another. On the ship, behind the scenes, again in the next song, we find out that there are the good guys, Jim, Gonzo, Captain Smollett, etc. And then you have the bad guys, and those are the pirates. Included among the pirates is Long John Silver, but at this point Jim does not know that. So the pirates are there just to steal the treasure from everybody else. They are Team Treasure, and the good guys are Team Friendship. What makes Long John Silver so interesting, it's a lot of things, but in order to accomplish his goal of getting the treasure, he needs to pretend to befriend Jim Hawkins. And so they actually do end up getting close to one another. They actually do end up becoming friends. This is an unintended consequence of Long John's manipulative decision to try to get information from Jim, again, prioritizing that treasure. So Long John is going to be, throughout the story, both a foil for Jim and the villain. So a foil, for anybody who might not know, is a character who intentionally contrasts against another character to highlight some characteristic. So when we see characters who are in a similar situation but take very different paths, we get a foil character. So, of course, being an English teacher for many years, what comes to mind is Hamlet. We have Hamlet and Laertes. They're in a very similar situation, but they handle it differently, and that emphasizes Hamlet's inability to take action versus Laertes, who immediately takes action and doesn't really think things through as perhaps he should. Or you can take Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. Han Solo's selfishness and general awesomeness brings to light Luke Skywalker's selflessness and comparative lameness. Some of this is subjective. Yes, I know, but I mean, who's gonna disagree with me? So, Long John is obsessed with that treasure, right? And he's willing to manipulate others. He's willing to hurt others. He's willing to sacrifice friendships in order to get that. Whereas Jim, especially as the story progresses, becomes more and more on the side of friendship. And if it's one or the other that he has to choose between, for him, he is going to choose friendship every time. And so seeing the kind of destructive factors of choosing treasure over friendship is where Long John Silver's character becomes so important. As Jim and Long John become closer, as Long John is manipulating Jim and using his past and vulnerabilities in order to really gain some real closeness with this young man, Jim starts neglecting his previous friends, Gonzo and Rizzo. It's not that he has a talk with them and says, I'm not going to hang out with you anymore, but he just kind of ignores them compared to how they were in the past. So at this point we see Jim is starting to go over to Long John's side, but he's not fully aware of the implications of what that could mean. Again, the theme is playing with the idea of friendship versus treasure versus riches, and we have a fake friendship that somebody thinks is a real friendship, all in order to gain that treasure. So at one point, Long John and his pirate cronies steal Jim away to the island when they're close enough to get to it themselves, in order to steal the treasure and leave everyone else for toast. That is when the entire story comes to a crossroads, and some of my very favorite scenes happen after this point. I love this whole freaking movie, but it is some of the scenes that happen after Jim is stolen away to the island, and that theme is just highlighted in the most beautiful ways that it gives me chills every time, even as an adult.
Love led us here, right back
To where we belong.
When I was, younger and this movie came out, I didn't realize quite why this would just give me chills every time, but now I have a much better understanding of just what's happening underneath the surface. And it's not only excellent theme, I could talk about lots of different aspects of how great this story is. And in fact, I have on my other channel, I have a video about what Muppet Treasure Island taught me about writing, but today is about theme, so let's continue. Jim has been taken onto the island, and Long John basically takes off his metaphorical mask, and he says, "I'm a pirate, and why don't you join us to go get the treasure?" So it's like an alternate offer of both friendship and treasure, but Jim has seen and overheard and had enough evidence to know that Long John is willing to sacrifice people for his goals. He's willing to manipulate, he's willing to harm, and Jim is not willing to do those things. So he chooses not to side with Long John Silver. Long John tries to manipulate Jim into giving him the compass willingly, through another amazing song.
True friendship and adventure are what we can't live without.
And when you're a professional pirate,
That's what the job's about.
Upstage now.
But when Jim refuses, Long John feels like he is forced to take it. And this just solidifies what Jim has already learned, that not everybody can be trusted, and how this man prefers treasure, values treasure above their friendship. This, I think, is the moment when Jim truly understands that he does have to prioritize one or the other, and from the beginning, even though you can see it on his face how it's difficult, he chooses friendship first. After this, I'm not going to get into every bit of the plot points, but there comes a moment soon after this when the pirates are looking for the treasure, and they encounter some of the people from the ship, the good guys, and they capture the good guys to get them out of the way. So my point is that at one moment that gives me chills in this story, Kermit as Captain Smollett and his love, Miss Piggy, who is in this story playing Benjamina Gunn, who is a woman that the captain left at the altar, and here she's been living on this island ever since. She's discovered the treasure, and she's been living like an absolute queen. Of course she has. And so Kermit and Piggy are dangling above this cliff. Death is imminent. The ropes that are holding them are catching on fire, and it's at that moment when they're hanging upside down that they sing "Love Let Us Hear" as a duet. It is not only an amazing and beautiful song, but it's also intercut between the two of them hanging upside down, holding each other's hands at the brink of death, and the pirates as they finally find the treasure that they have been searching for. They find it in Benjamina's residence, and so they're all like dancing among the coins, and then it goes back and forth between this very stark, they're about to die falling over this cliff, image, and then this lush, celebrating among all the treasure image. So talk about just an absolute beautiful expression of theme. It was the fact that the song lyrics in Love Let Us Here worked on 2 levels that I was able to, understand when I was younger, and I'm like, it works on 2 levels.
Love, let us hear.
Love Let Us Hear and Love Let Us Hear. And I just, there's a reason that I became an English teacher and later an author, because I still cannot get enough of that fact. But now I know that not only does it work on 2 levels in general, but those 2 levels express the theme perfectly. Love led Kermie and Piggy together to choose each other, and love of treasure, love of riches led the pirates to harm and manipulate people and to get that treasure that they wanted. Captain Smollett and Benjamin Gunn do survive their encounter with the glyph. It's very dramatic, as you might imagine. But I'm fast forwarding a bit here to toward the end, when Jim is only able to overcome the pirates and to defeat them and to save his friends through the power of friendship, the power of choosing people over riches. At that point, Jim has absolutely chosen a side. He could have joined the pirate crew. He was close enough to Long John to join that crew, get some of the bounty if he wanted it, but he is absolutely in the corner of friendship over riches. He has chosen a side. Now, something I love that Muppet Treasure Island does, even though, yes, it's a kid's movie, there is a moral complication in that Long John has genuinely grown to care for Jim, and Jim has genuinely come to care for Long John, but it's not a friendship that Jim can keep because Long John doesn't prioritize his safety or even his life over riches. And so you can see this pain on both of their faces, because they know they can't keep this, this relationship, this closeness, because Long John will choose riches every time, and because Jim will choose his friends every time. It's incredibly poignant. And that's another, the second scene that always gives me chills. The second scene is sort of epilogue scene, if you will. The pirates have been defeated. They've been brought back to the Hispaniola, and somehow Long John escapes from the brig, and he manages to get out in the dead of night. He's in one of the lifeboats with a huge amount of treasure, and he is going to run for it and escape. At the same moment, Jim hears a noise. He gets up and he looks out and he sees Long John about to escape with these riches. It is at this moment that Long John has a similar choice to make. He needs to choose between friendship and riches one last time with the one person who has perhaps enough pull to get him over to the side of friendship. Especially when Jim threatens to expose that Long John has gotten away and that he's running off with the treasure.
Give us one more chance.
Oh my gosh, this scene. Long John knows that if Jim exposes him, Long John will not get away. He will not have the riches. He'll be locked up. And yet he can't silence Jim, because the only way to silence Jim is to end him. And so the gun is pointed at Jim, and he can't bring himself to take that final step that would say, I never cared about our friendship. It was always only ever about the riches.
Hell, Jim. I can never harm you. You're honest and brave and true. You didn't learn that from me.
His friendship with Jim has changed him to the point where he at least has this soft spot that he just can't quite dig out of his heart for Jim. That scene is just, it's too much. It's too much.
I learnt it from my friends, Mr. Silver. Now take your oars and row away. I never want to see you again, ever.
Because of the strength of the friendship that they actually have formed on Long John's side, it was unintentional. He cannot end Jim's life. And another reason why he states that he can't do it is because he knows that Jim has taken the better path, that he has chosen the better way, and Long John just can't get there himself.
You're honest and brave and true.
So in a way, he respects Jim for choosing the better road. So if you were at all in doubt, like which way was the way to go, even Long John admits that he knows he's not choosing the high road, but he chooses riches regardless. And then Jim doesn't actually blow the whistle to alert people to come and retake, Long John and take him to the brig. He proves that he is the better person by prioritizing friendship yet again and telling Long John to leave, to never come back because he feels so betrayed, and he is willing to lose all of that treasure as long as Long John just goes. So he's going to spare Long John's life as well. At the very, very end, poetic justice prevails and the lifeboat is faulty. It can't take the weight of the treasure and it was kind of leaky to begin with. And so Long John, along with the treasure, sink in the boat. The treasure is all lost. And again, just again and again and again, we have that theme. We shine light on that theme in different ways. It's not the same beat every time. It's rotating this idea in seeing all these different facets of it. So the treasure is ultimately lost. It's just a thing, and Long John is without treasure and without friends. So then the credits roll.
It's a love power, stronger than the hurricane and softer than the summer rain.
Jim and his friends, both old and new, are off to more adventures. They're going to live this exciting life, prioritizing each other over riches. And then there's a credit song called Love Power. It's awfully groovy, but the lyrics again are about the power of love, and that song is singing as some of the rats go scuba diving and retrieve some of the treasure. So it's the people who prioritized friendship and love for one another who get both that and the treasure, and it's the people who prioritize the treasure over relationships that ended up with nothing. So a very simple theme, but my goodness, is it well executed in this movie. There are scenes that gave me chills when I was 10 and give me chills now. Watch this movie. So let me recap for those of you who are writers, which I assume is most of you watching this channel. So if you want to incorporate some of the same uses of theme that Muppet Treasure Island does, maybe one day I'll write a masterpiece like Muppet Treasure Island. I've written some good stuff, but there's just something about that movie. The intro to Muppet Treasure Island showed an extreme of what became the theme that resolved in the idea that friendship was more important than riches when brought into conflict with each other. So we see the opposite extreme, the riches being the most important there in the intro. We see both Jim, the pure of heart protagonist, and Long John Silver wrestling with the choice. Should they choose friendship? Should they choose riches? Long John is the one who struggles the most with this choice, and so I think that makes him both extremely interesting and extremely important to the theme. And it's comparing the two, Jim and Long John, that bring the theme into focus the most. The plot is driven by that either or, that push and pull of who's more important at what point. There are echoes of the idea throughout, even with subplots like with Long John leaving Benjamina Gunn, who was in a relationship with him at one point, in favor once more of the treasure, and just all these betrayals that he leaves along the way in his pursuit of that one single-minded thing. And then the ending has a conclusion about that theme. That is something that I think most good works have, is that ending that matches up with the theme of the work, or one of the major themes. So for instance, one of the major themes in Laertes, for example, is the idea of forgiveness of oneself and others, and that idea comes into stark relief at the end of the book. This one's a dark academia retelling of Hamlet set in 1920s Paris. At the end of the Tanyuan Academy series, the entire series, it's 3 books, 1,500 pages. At the end of Kingdoms on Fire, one of the main themes, the ideas that I wanted to leave the audience with, is what love is. That love is sacrifice rather than control and domination. And so throughout the whole series, I have that idea presented in a ton of different ways, through a lot of different characters. Whenever I was intentional about thinking about it. But think about your own work and consider what are some of the big ideas that you have in there. Again, it doesn't need to be a preachy book. It doesn't need to be a moral message per se to be a theme. But if you are able to look at it from all these different angles and have the characters truly, in a human way, wrestle with these ideas, then your book is going to come to life more than if you're kind of unaware of what the impact of your work is going to be. So that, my friends, is my short treatise on how Muppet Treasure Island, the 1996 Muppet masterpiece, is an absolute schooling in the use of theme. So, happy summertime, everybody. Go and watch Muppet Treasure Island, and I will see you here around the channel. Make sure to subscribe if you're new, like this video if you like it. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok under the same name, Carly Stevens Books, if you want to check that out. Okay, till next time, bye.